Hello, folks. Welcome to this episode of the Profit Easy One. This one we're going to get into a few current and future things. And what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be covering this booklet. I was listening to Mark Levin recently on the radio. And this is a free booklet that he recommended that people get. Yeah, and it's a good booklet. I like it. In fact, I told the guy I meant to bring his card out here. I'm not going to go get it, but that maybe I'd read through this. It sounded interesting to me and do a video on it. And it was interesting to me, and now I'm doing a video on it. And I hope that it'll be of interest to you. All right, so before I get going, I want to read something here out of the book of Isaiah. Chapter 24, verse 1 through 6. Because this covers a lot of what we're going to cover. Behold, the Lord makes the earth empty, and he makes it waste, and turns it upside down, and scatters abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master. As with the maid, so with her mistress. As with the buyer, so with the seller. As with the lender, so with the borrower. As with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for the Lord has spoken his word. The earth mourns and fades away. The world languishes and fades away. The hardy people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore has the curse devoured the whole earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left. So we're going to get into some of the things here that are going to bring about some of that stuff. And, I want you to notice here that it says, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury. Because we're going to talk a little about that in here too. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through this booklet. It's a very interesting booklet. 14 pages plus several pages of lots of footnotes. This thing's well documented. So anyway, I've highlighted a bunch of things that I'm going to cover. I'm going to give you some scriptures to go with it. And I hope that this will be beneficial to you. Now it starts with an introduction. It's a quote from Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, whatever. One of them is the quoter. The other one's probably a book it was written in. It says, whenever destroyers appear among men, now remember, Satan comes not but for to steal, kill, and destroy. Whenever destroyers appear among men, they start by destroying money. For money is men's protection. I'm not going to get into that here. I have covered some of that on some other videos. Oh, and I will more. Destroyer seize gold and leave to its owners a counterfeit pile of paper. This kills all objective standards and delivers men into the arbitrary power of an arbitrary setter of values. I was going to get into this later, but Rothschild said he didn't care who controlled the government as long as he controlled the money, because ultimately he would control the government. And that's what they have done. It is what they're doing today. All right, so let's get into some of this. The government of the United States and many of its global allies are fighting a secret war, a war to destroy your right to use cash. And that's what we're going to be getting into here. And this is very biblical too, and prophetic. And we're going to get into a bunch of that too. It says, wake up. And you have the power to win, to take a few easy steps that can outsmart and defeat the forces that are trying to conquer you, confiscate your cash, and impose a new worldwide selfdom on mankind, which is what they do. I shared with you how the Bible says that the rulers of the Gentiles like to lord it over them. They want to be your Lord and you are their serf. That's what the rulers of the Gentiles want, our governments. Okay, it says the United States is quickly going cashless. No, I didn't want, let's skip that. Visa and MasterCard in 2017 pocketed approximately $43 billion in transaction charges for card use. Excuse me. Where was I here? Oh. And a growing number of major merchants likewise want and some demand the security and ease of customers using only credit or debit cards, not cash or checks for purchases. All right, we're not going to get into a whole lot of that right here, but I do want to show you. I'm going to go to, it's talking here about cashless society, and they want people to use credit and pay high interest rates. Well, shoot, I didn't really want to go too far. Let me cover some things here, though, in Deuteronomy 1 through 6, and then 10 and 11. It's probably more than I'd planned to cover, but let's do that. Because this is how it used to be. God said, at the end of every 7 years, you shall make a release. Now, this is to people that you've loaned money to. We'll get into it, and you'll understand this better. And this was a manner of the release. Every creditor that lends anything to his neighbor shall release it. He shall not exact of his neighbor, of his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Of a foreigner, you may exact it again, but not of a brother. But that which is thine with thy brother, thine hand shall release. Save, when you hear that crow out there, he's calling me, wants me to come feed him. He's just going to have to wait. Save, when there shall be no poor among you, when there shall be no poor among you, for the Lord shall greatly bless you in the land which the Lord thy God giveth you for an inheritance to possess it. Only, now, he's going to bless you, only if you carefully hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God, to observe, to do all these commandments which I've commanded this day. For the Lord your God blesses you, as he promised you, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, but you shall not borrow. And thou shalt reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. All right, let me go down to 10 and 11, because this is going to tie in here too. I'm not really trying to get into this. This will be in some other video. It says you should, he's talking about when you have the poor in the land and how you're to help them out, especially a brother. It says you should surely give him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give unto him. Because that for this thing, the Lord your God shall bless you in your works. Remember, he was saying how he would bless the nation if you did things according to what the Lord says. It says, and the Lord your God shall bless you in all your works and in all that you put your hand to do. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. You've got to understand it. God says that the poor you shall always have with you. And the way that the governments want to treat the poor, oh my goodness, it's terrible. And there's plenty of the scriptures about that, which, like I said, we'll cover in another video too. For the poor shall never cease out of the land. Therefore I command you, saying, you shall open your hand unto your brother, to the poor, and to the needy in the land. If you do those things, the Lord will bless the land. But I want to switch now to Deuteronomy chapter 28. And once again, I'm going to start at the beginning and then cover another verse here. And it shall come to pass, if thou hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set you on high above all nations of the earth. Hey, if you want to make America great again, if you shall hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord your God, then you'll be blessed. He will make America great again. And of these blessings shall come on, and all of these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you shall hearken unto the voice of the Lord your God. And then he goes through all these blessings that will come upon you if you hearken to the Lord your God. And of course, if you don't, then there are cursings that come upon you. Let's go to verse 12. And the Lord shall open unto you his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto the land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hand. And you shall lend unto many nations, but you shall not borrow. Now, why should you not borrow? Here, let me go there. Let's go to Proverbs. A couple places in Proverbs here. Let's go to chapter 22. A couple verses out of this chapter. A good name is rather to be chosen than gold or silver. Let's see. Now, if you as a nation are loaning money to people, not trying to get over on them, but that'll give you a good name, which is better than gold or silver. And in one of my videos, I cover some things about a good name and how it will open doors for you and get you into the gates of heaven. All right, now, that was verse 1. Let's go to verse 7. This is why you don't borrow. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. If you borrowed, and now you're paying interest, and we're going to get into more of that stuff here, you are now servant to the lender. When you get your money every week, every month, whatever it is, you now have to serve him. You got to say, oh man, I don't get to keep it all now because I borrowed this money and I'm paying interest on it, and darn it, the interest is growing and I got to pay some of this. You've now become servant to the lender. You are out working to pay him, and you're paying him interest. All right, so yeah, Visa and MasterCard, oh yeah, they want all that, not cash or checks for purchases. They want only credit or debit cards. They want you to use credit. That's how they profit. Banking's no longer quite the way it used to be. It says government, above all, has been pushing for the fast-arriving cashless society. Cash and its transactions can be hidden and kept private, despite your bank being required to spy on you, and we'll get into that, and report to the IRS any unusual financial activity. Government wants every financial transaction you make to be trackable, hackable, blockable, and therefore usable as a tool to enrich and empower Big Brother. Yep, they want a cashless society. And why? Well, like it said there, and we're going to get into it more. Yeah, it gives them control. Remember, the rulers of the Gentiles want to lord it over you. The word government, govern means to control. Ment is mine. They want to rule over you. And let's go here to Revelations 13:7. Oh, no, not just right there. Let me see. Well, I don't need to look this up. Y'all know this verse. It says, and he causeth everyone, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, like we were talking about here, to receive in a mark in his right hand or in his forehead, that he might not buy nor sell, save he who had the mark or the number of his name. So see, they'll be able to use it to control who can buy or sell. We're going to get into that. And keep in mind, this is all things that have been going around worldwide. You know, I have other videos covering these things. This is just another one to add to that, just to show you and to reinforce things. And you got to understand that when that mark of the beast is finally instituted and those deadlines are set there for you, you're either going to have to take that mark, which will put you in hell, or you're going to have to do something else. So we're going to cover some of that too here. Not like I will in another video, because I'm trying to get through this booklet. I have a feeling this, I didn't know how long it would get, because it's a lot of pages, a lot of information. But I'm going to try to get through this here for you. All right. It says, when a cashless government turns authoritarian, it can not only monitor and tax everything you buy, but it can ban purchases, ranging from foods it deems unhealthful to guns it deems dangerous. Yeah, look at that. They're trying to keep you from buying sodas in New York over a certain size. You know, what the heck? And if you do, they're going to tax you extra for it, or give you a fine or something like that. What the heck? Without the approval of Big Brother, you can be denied the ability to buy what you want and need. Purchasing or repairing once legal firearms, for example, can be instantly made impossible by preventing your credit card from being able to pay for it. And Obama passed laws to do that. We're going to get into that. Fortunately, this president we have now took those laws away. And we'll get into that rather than get onto it here. Now, so now they can deny your ability to buy certain things. And that's a tool that the government uses already. They use it against other nations. They call it an embargo. And that's what they're going to do to you. It'll be an embargo. And if people sell to you or deal with you, then they're going to have repercussions. Just like they do with governments now. You know, like the United States keeps doing that, just causing poverty all over. You know, embargoes on Yemen and Iran and all kinds of places. And that doesn't help make friends of anybody. You're out there making the poor poorer. You're not helping anybody. They're just trying to take care of their own agendas where they can rule it over you. A spiritual wickedness in high places. All right. Now, this authoritarian cashless society forces people to depend on credit cards and on renting things instead of owning them. It deems cash as something only outlaws use. Government can then control what people are permitted to buy by regulating and intimidating banks and credit card companies. And this already started happening in the United States in ways that circumvent and destroy our constitutional rights. And we'll get into one of those things, like I said, that Obama did. You know, it's getting to where they make it to where righteousness becomes a crime. You know, and like God says in Psalm 94, I've brought this up quite a few times. And what fellowship have you with the throne of iniquity, who pass laws that they might create mischief, and then they gather themselves together and come after the soul of the righteous and shed innocent blood, and use these laws to govern, to control you. God never meant for men to be controlling other men. All right. Now, I wish I could remember that other quote. Maybe it'll come back later. It says, how far, by the way, I want to let you know, this is, I showed a picture of it, and I showed you, this is a secret war. What the war on cash is doing to your income, saving, life, and liberty, and how to survive it. Third revised edition by Craig R. Smith and Lau Ponte. I tell you what, I think they did a good job on putting this together and writing it up. And, you know, if you watch the Mark Levin show, they have a number you can call, maybe even before this is over, I'll get it, or it might be in here if you're interested in getting this or some of their other books, which I'm interested in, because what they wrote here is pretty good. In fact, one of the other books I'll be mentioning in here. All right. So how far can a power-hungry government go by using cashlessness to control its citizens? It can become more totalitarian than the dictatorships imagined by dystopian novelist George Orwell in 1984 and Aldous Huxley in Brave New World. This ominous power is already beginning to be enforced in one of the world's most powerful countries. And we're going to get into a bunch of that. But you know, Rothschild, he said that he didn't care who controlled the government as long as he controlled the cash. Because if he controlled the money, and he could control the government, because they believe, because they worship money so much, they believe in the golden rule. He who has the gold rules. That's their philosophy. All right, now, let's get into something here. Communist China's totalitarian government is replacing paper money with no money at all, a cashless society. And advanced nations around the world, from Sweden to the United Kingdom and the United States, are rushing to do likewise. Now, you know, I've covered a lot of this in some of my videos, and how the UN is behind all this, and how different countries are doing all this, and there are different excuses for why they're doing it everywhere. But it's happening all over the world. This global war on cash, now being fought on many battlefields with a variety of weapons, will decide the future of human freedom. Of course it will. God says it. He says that nobody's going to be able to buy and sell save he who has the mark of the beast, and that beast is the UN, or the number of his name. You're not going to be able to buy or sell. They're going to control everything to get you. They want you to bow down to them. That's what Satan wants. He wants you bowing down to him. He wants to put himself above the throne of God, just as the governments do. They don't believe in God. You know, it says that the kings of the earth gather themselves together and come against the Lord and against his anointed. All right. Yeah, so it will decide the future of human freedom, on what you can buy or sell, and who can buy or sell. Since China's cash society will be based, it already is, on a financial credit combined with political credit. You know, and I speak about this in one of my other videos, how it's a social score that you get in China. The more that you bend over and kiss their butt, the better your score. If you're not kissing their butt, they consider you dissident, and you get a lower score, and ooh, they control you with the benefits and the disadvantages of kissing there or not kissing there. All right. It says, China's cash society will be based upon credit combined with political credit. China's state-imposed system of social credit, which could rule up to 1.3 billion of its citizens by 2020, or soon thereafter, will assign each person a score, and it already does this, based on their loyalty to the state and Communist Party, patriotism, hard work, pro-social behavior, such as being a blood donor and a good driver, and buying Chinese-made products while avoiding materialism, will be rewarded. Those who do best will receive green channel benefits through the state. But woe unto those who are overheard speaking ill of the government. Try to look up forbidden topics on the internet, smoke, drink, or get traffic tickets. When journalist Li Hu recently tried to book a flight, CBS reported he was told he was banned from flying because he was on a list of untrustworthy people. It's like this country, no fly list. If they consider you untrustworthy, no fly list. Just when ordered by a court to apologize for recent tweets, Liu did so, only to be told by the communist judge that his apology was insincere. In one of my other videos, I speak of a famous Chinese movie actress who they've been prosecuting too because of her social score. Now here's what Liu says. He says, I can't buy property. My child can't go to a private school. That's how they control you. You feel controlled by the list all the time. The social credit system reportedly takes into account what books citizens read, what they buy, how long they spend playing video games. Bad social credit could eliminate your possibility of starting a business, staying in luxury hotels, and buying or renting property. Under limited testing of this surveillance program, people with bad social credit have already been blocked from booking more than 11 million airline flights and 4 million high-speed rail trips. They're not letting them travel because they have a low social score, according to the government. It says worse, bad social credit could deny you health care from government licensed doctors or hospitals. This political power can extend to or deny you credit is literally the power of life or death, because in a cashless society, the only thing you have is credit. Not necessarily. If you look at what's happening in Venezuela right now, because, their cash inflation's so through the roof, the cash is basically no good, So what they're doing now, especially like at the fish markets, everybody goes down there to barter. Somebody's got flour, they want some fish, they'll trade for fish. Or they might trade for baby formula. They're having to do a barter system because the cash is useless, and that's what's going to happen in the future. You're going to maybe have to barter your goods or your skills for the things that you need. So I hope you have some usable skills and or goods. All right. See, today in China, they're using algorithms to track citizens. It says, according to Martin Trozempa at the Peterson Institute for Independent Economics, it's algorithmic governance that can brand you an outlaw that other citizens risk their own safety for helping. Wow, like in Nazi Germany, and like it's going to be in the United States and around the world. If you go helping these people who don't take the mark of the beast and you get caught doing so, it won't be good for you. I don't know what'll happen. They would gladly probably take your assets and probably throw you in jail for a while. Have you do some hard labor for them, to serve them, to slave for them. It says, and these algorithmic, we'll get into that about Google, YouTube, they use them. I'm going to get into Google here in a minute. One version of China's system will automatically notify people on their smartphones if they're within 500 yards of a deadbeat. This, of course, also reminds citizens that a brutal Santa Claus government in Beijing is always watching you and can reward or punish you. All right, China. Let me see what I got. All right. China is creating near total surveillance of citizens by combining government data with the private corporate data by using artificial intelligence. Google. Told you we're going to talk about Google. A typically left-of-center company has helped China develop Dragonfly, an advanced artificial intelligence program to spy on China's citizenry. When it came to helping develop AI for the U.S. military's Project Mayhem, however, Google reportedly decided that to help the U.S. was wrong and quickly gave in to radical pressure to drop the government. Now, let me tell you something about that. Google actually was working on the program. And thank God for a lot of Google employees. Because here is what they said. It said Google reportedly decided that to help the U.S. was wrong and quickly gave in to radical pressure to drop the project. Now, Microsoft and Amazon were also involved in this, I want you to know. And Project Mayhem was also known as the Algorithmic Warfare Cross-Function Team. Now, let me get back to it. It says they quickly gave in to radical pressure. Google did. They had to. This was radical pressure. And I want to give kudos to those Google employees who did this. Because what happened is 3,000 Google employees signed a petition against helping our government do this because they knew that it's a total invasion of our privacy, that it's a means of government control. That's where the pressure to Google came from their own employees. It says at the 2019 World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, radical billionaire George Soros. Oh boy. I talk about him some in some videos, and I'll probably get into him more sometime. But here's something he said, quote, "What I find particularly disturbing is that the instruments of control developed by artificial intelligence give an inherent advantage to authoritarian regimes. For open society, they pose a mortal threat." Yeah, that's true. And he should know, since he's brought down so many nations himself. And if something like China has this kind of control over their government, it would be hard for Soros to get into there and do what he's been doing in other places. So to him, it's not good. All right. Now, at Davos, George Soros also denounced Xi Jinping's Global Belt and Road Initiative, which has lured poor third world nations into borrowing huge sums from China for Chinese-built projects such as railways. When these people fail to produce promised economic benefits, China has demanded reform in the form of national ports and airports and land and other things. But China's already used such neo-colonialist tactics to demand ports or airports that extend its military reach in Kenya, Zambia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. Its cautious credit control of individuals and small companies is akin to colonizing nations by debt. And that's what they do. Remember, this borrower becomes servant to the lender. And Jamaica took a whole lot of money from China. And as a result, because the Chinese put in a lot of money to build roads and things, but as a result now, there's a lot of Chinese living in Jamaica. The Chinese are taking more and more control there. They have, you go to most cities in America, we have a Chinatown where it's a part of a city or a town. And it's all the Chinese restaurants, a lot of Chinese people, laundries, all those things. But no, in Jamaica, they don't have Chinatowns. They have Chinese towns. We're pretty much all Chinese. All right. And in some places, the Chinese have instilled their own police departments in places, such as in South Africa and other places. Well, let's get back to this here. All right. So, it says the world's governments are rushing to banish cash to create their own unnatural shortage of freedom by making legal only those transactions that can be tracked. That's what they've been trying to do. Economic privacy will vanish in a cashless society because every purchase is carried out via cell phone or computer and is monitored by government. The government will know what you buy, what you eat, and where you're at every moment of purchase and will judge you accordingly. It says governments have already begun to tell us not only how much of something we can afford, but what we can and cannot buy. It says you cannot count on paper currency, paper investments, or paper promises of a government guaranteed retirement, and you definitely cannot trust plastic credit, which the government can erase instantly. And see, this is another means that they will use for control and to get people to take the mark of the beast. Welfare and retirement. Those people, most of them, well, it's like the Bible says that the beast will cause people to take those marks. And that's what will happen here. Unless you take the mark, you're not going to get your retirement, and you're not going to get your welfare check. You're not going to get your medical coverage, all those things. So many people are going to say, man, I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to trust the government and take this mark. I'm telling you here, don't do it. Trust in the Lord. Read the word, study. See some of my videos. Grow in faith. Not in the government, but in God. All right, let me see. Where were we here? Yeah, they will be controlled. Now, this is ironic. It says, ironically, China in the 7th century AD invented paper money, later forcing its residents to exchange their silver and gold coins for this paper money so they could get the silver and gold that was worth something, and you take this paper money that's what the paper is printed on. And the government could easily print in any amount it wished. China even invented paper money with an expiration date. And probably part of the reason they did that is because of inflation. You know, I'm not going to get into all of that here. You know, well, let me read this. China even invented paper money with an expiration date, much like our paper money today, whose value is constantly devalued by deliberate government-created inflation and overprinting. You know, years ago, I had subscriptions to the M1, M2, M3 money supply and some other government things about our money supply and how much money they were printing and everything. And it helped me to tell bankers what was going to happen with the interest rate. They called me crazy, said I didn't know what I was talking about, but a month and a half or 2 months later, they're all calling me wanting to know how I knew. And part of the reason I knew was because I've studied plenty of economics, and I subscribed to a bunch of these things from the government. And all of a sudden, they decided to stop putting it out. See, they don't even let us know how much money they print now. So they can just print as much as they want. And as they print money, your dollars that you have become less. And it's actually a form of taxation, too. And we'll get into that a little bit here. Now, I'm going to touch on this. I know these people may not like it, but I got to say this part. It says humankind will eventually rediscover the framers' constitutional money. We will return to the 5,000-year tradition of precious metal that needs no government or computer to give it its value. See, that's not really going to happen. Because when the doo-doo hits the fan, what are you going to do with your gold? When you need food or medicine or other things, what are you going to do with your gold? Let's say you got a 1 ounce gold bar and you want to go out and you need the baby formula. What do you do? File off a little tiny piece, break it off, give them the whole piece, and then we give you a whole bunch of gold and silver change back? No. We're going to be able to eat that gold. You're going to be able to even wipe your butt with that gold. You'd be better off to get some toilet paper. Yeah. Because God says that people are going to take their gold and their silver and they're going to cast it into the clefts of the rocks. They're going to realize, man, we've been seeking this gold, and what good is it? And it says that people will throw it away as if it was a menstruous cloth. You say, man, I worked with this all my life, and now it ain't nothing. In September 2017, Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico. The tiny Caribbean island, already struggling with a $74 billion debt, fell into darkness as the storm knocked out its electricity, bank ATMs, and credit card verification stopped working, leaving people unable to buy food and other necessities with their credit and welfare cards. Store security guards admitted only customers who could pay in cash. The Federal Reserve was forced to fly a jet loaded with an undisclosed amount of cash to the stricken island, Bloomberg News reported, to meet payrolls and to help avert disaster as people's money ran out. That's why it's a good idea to keep some cash on hand. Yeah. You never know when an EMP or any kind of major catastrophic event could cause the banks to be closed, or they could do it by laws, as they've done in so much of the world, and we'll cover some of that here too. So it's a good idea to keep some cash on hand. I know it's hard because most people don't have cash. I think there's something maybe in this article, another one, where most people, for a $400 emergency thing, they don't have the money. And if it's anything more than that, it's even fewer people that have the money for it. All right. Now, if you thought Puerto Rico was bad, take a slightly different crystal ball glimpse of the future as it appeared in India. So let's get into some of this. I'm going to... All right, yeah. Frantic customers, see, because they passed these laws where they were to make the most popular bills that they had illegal to own. So people had to get rid of them, and it was a short notice. And there's reasons why they did that. Let's get into this here. It says frantic customers shove their way into already crowded shops. Many have fistfuls of cash. They're desperate to trade for whatever their savings can buy, knowing that that cash was going to become worthless. Only minutes earlier, the government had made a surprise announcement that two of the largest paper currency notes would within hours become worthless. So everybody had to go out and spend this money. Like I said, what good is gold going to do you when you need toilet paper? Yeah. I'd rather have a roll of toilet paper and a $10 bill. I'd be doing like the guy saying, hey, mister, have you got change? Yeah. Okay. Let's see, where were we? All right, now, this sudden action was to catch tax evaders who had large secret holdings of black money. Hey, in cash, said Prime Minister Narendra Modi, head of India's ruling Hindu party. In its place, people would be pushed to accept new money, bank accounts, credit cards, and other transactions that the government could monitor and potentially tax. And India had been the opposite of a cashless society. 96% of transactions there were done using cash, compared with only 8% of purchases in the US, 3% in Sweden, and 86% of transactions in India were done with the 500 and 1,000 rupee currency notes, the two that they made worthless. They were worth roughly $7.50 and $15. But Modi banished them, and they were partly replacing with new bills. The decree imposing currency controls plunged a huge nation of 1.3 people into chaos. ATMs and banks stopped issuing old money, but the replacement currency was too big to fit in ATMs, and by design, too little was available. Why by design? Because now they got to use credit. They have to borrow money. That way the banks and all, they prosper more. Like I said, it was done by design. It says Air Force airplanes and helicopters moved thousands of tons of new paper money to keep the country running, and a currency control strict limit of $60 per day in rupees was imposed on how much most people could get from their bank. Now, that's why I say keep you some cash available if you have it. And see, this isn't the only country that this stuff has happened to, where people couldn't go. I mean, it's happened in European countries where people could only take out small amounts of money. Because if there was a run on the bank and people wanted their money, they don't have the money. Yeah, they don't have the money. All right, let me see. India's demonetization was a large-scale test of what globalist progressives call the cashless society. Some believe it was done at the urging of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. And I don't want to get into all of that, but oh yeah. See, remember, our government is a corporation, and it's for profit. And so are all these other corporations that is our government. They're for profit. And they use this to help control things. All right. It says here in a cashless society, he refers to Revelation 13:17, which I already read to you. It says, and then, well, let's go back over. And now let's go back a little more. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell except he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And I hope to do a video pretty soon on that. And it's especially going to cover the next verse there, but we're not going to get into that now. Yeah, and here's something too, just a little short. Historically, gold money was replaced by unbacked paper currency through which you can be taxed simply by inflation. Yeah. Wow, we're not going to get into all of that right now, but that's true. Now, this is interesting. Let's get to some of this. Consider a few examples of how the government now confiscates cash. Now, one of my videos, I think it's called the one, Do You Trust Donald Trump, or Do You Trust Trump, or something? I mentioned in there how that he's all for asset forfeiture. So let's get into some things here and cases on that. And I recommend you look that up. Google it. Look up asset forfeiture and how corrupt that the government has become to take things from its own citizens. Tell you what, that's not those verses I met at the beginning about for the nation to be blessed. They got to go by the ordinances of God. This nation, the United States of America, is not a blessed nation. And it's going to hell in a handbasket fast. It's on a slippery slope. All right, let me see. Here's a few examples. Danny Hastert became a prisoner of this war on cash. The former Republican Speaker of the House was caught in a legal trap used in this war. Hastert foolishly believed he was free to withdraw his own cash money from his own bank account without notifying the government. He was convicted of this once innocent act that has become a crime. Like I said, they pass laws, they create laws, make laws that they might create mischief. See, at one time, this was totally legal. But now, all of a sudden it's not legal. Man, can't they get their laws straight? I mean, God's got his laws already, and they don't change. The government changes it all the time so they can manipulate and control things the way that they want. All right. So, he took money out of his own bank account without notifying the government. He was convicted of this once innocent act that has become a crime. As a result, at age 74, Hastert, June 2016, was sentenced to serve 15 months in prison and pay a $250,000 penalty. The rest of that verse says that they come after the soul that are righteous and shed innocent blood. They're taking away the life of this man. And the government does that plenty, and they don't care. And they make their long prayers and their reasons why that they do it, which are all terrible. All right. And the other thing is a $250,000 penalty. You know, isn't it funny that the laws that they make, just about all of them, have fines in them for the government. And when they take you to court, you got to pay court costs and all these other things. But yet, when an individual has something done wrong for them, they don't take the money from the criminal to help that person. They still take it from the criminal to help the government. Like if it was them that was wrong. Like God says, justice is perverted and judgment is turned away backwards. All right. Near Muskogee, Oklahoma, sheriff deputies pulled over Ewa, manager of a Christian rock band. I've seen this on YouTube. In his car, they found $53,249 cash in band earnings, CD and souvenir sales, personal money, and donations earmarked to go to a Christian church in Burma and a Christian orphanage in Thailand. The deputies took it all when they were dissatisfied with the answers from Wall, for whom English is at best a second language. This put the burden of proof on him to show that the money was legal. So they took the money. And we're going to get into that. I think it's covered again here a little bit. In Arlington, Virginia, Army Sergeant Jeff Cortazzo had been saving from his paychecks for his daughter's education since around the time of the financial crisis in 2008. After several years, he decided to redeposit this cash in a bank, but was afraid it might be taxed again. So the banker told him to make deposits of less than $2,000, and he took this advice, and the government seized his $66,000 college fund. After a long and costly battle, it returned only $45,000. This innocent man, who committed no crime, lost $21,000. And no doubt he spent a bunch of time in court, and it doesn't mention legal fees or anything else here. Here's another one. And keep in mind now, President Trump is for this. Virginia State Police stopped Victor Luis Guzman for speeding, then confiscated $28,500 in his car. A Pentecostal church secretary, he was carrying parishioners' donations. The police refused to return his money until an attorney who served on the Justice Department's asset forfeiture office during the Reagan administration took the case pro bono. Man, they took the money for the church donations. And all they got to do is say that they think it was drug money. Oh, yeah, or anything else. You know, well, you'll see how they handle these things. In Athens, Georgia, Andrew Clyde, a Navy veteran, saw the government seize nearly $1 million from the bank account of his small firearms store. His crime was having an insurance policy capped at $10,000. So he and his staff never carried that much in cash when going to the bank to make deposits. It cost Clyde more than $150,000 in legal and other expenses, plus a fine of $50,000 to get the rest of his money back. He says, quote, "I did not serve 3 combat tours in Iraq only to come home and be extorted by my government." That's what Clyde told a congressional hearing in February 2015. It's terrible. These governments are extorting their own people. They've done it to me. In Fairmont, North Carolina, country store owner Lyndon McLean saw the IRS seize $107,000 from his bank account. The IRS then offered to return half his money, they do this a lot, if he signed an agreement to let them keep the other half. He refused, and with growing publicity about his case on Fox News and elsewhere, the IRS finally returned his money without explanation. This is highway robbery, folks. During legal battles, McClellan noticed an affidavit from a state official. The Department of Justice has an equitable sharing program that gives state and local enforcement agencies a share of the proceeds of forfeiture opportunities they give to the feds. So, I mentioned some of this in that other video. Oftentimes these seizures are outside of the law. Actually, all of them should be outside of the law. And like sometimes a local jurisdiction will have to bring in the state to be able to enforce these laws and collect money. Now, when they do, then the state takes over it, but the county or city, they get some of the money, and the state gets some of it, instead of the city keeping it all. And then on other ones, it could be a little tougher. If the state can't quite handle it because of the laws of that state, then they turn to the feds. And the feds come after you, and they take the money, and they give some of it to those state and local jurisdictions. It is robbery. Robbery. And like the scripture says here in Psalms, and they gather themselves together and come after the soul of the righteous. That's what they do. Like I said, they've done it to me. God let it happen to me so I could see what's really going on. Satan meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Let's see. What else we got here? All right. Let's go to some more of this. The government now confiscates cash and other property from those who used to be regarded as law-abiding citizens, but who now have reason to fear merely by paying cash. Like I said, they make laws that they might create mischief, and it gives them an opportunity to seize your cash and to fine you. Whew. What kind of laws are that, man? Making it legal for them to rob you? Oh, man. Huh. All right. Welcome to the world of civil asset forfeiture, which in 2015 saw police confiscate more than $5 billion dollars from people. This was more than all the money stolen that year from burglars. So who are the real thieves? I mean, that's just one way that the government is stealing from you. And through that, since this was more than all the money stolen that year from burglars. Wow. And they do this under what's called the color law. Hey, I got a badge. The law says that it's okay for me to take your money, so I'm going to take it. Bunch of big crooks. So, the Civil Asset Forfeiture Program, and once again, I want to thank this guy, Craig Smith and Lal Ponte, for putting this together. The Civil Asset Forfeiture Program has its roots in English law that American colonists rebelled against, writes Fox News reporter Doug McElway. The rebellion was ultimately codified in the Fourth Amendment, which reads in part, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. These are totally unreasonable. See, they violate the Constitution all the time by making other laws to try to circumvent it, and it's tough to fight them. Look at the legal expenses, like that one guy with $150,000 he had to pay. Despite the unambiguous language, civil asset forfeiture was revived in the 1930s Prohibition era against bootleggers. I touch on that in another video too. How they make, once again, something that was legal, they made it illegal so that they could profit on it. And meanwhile, they killed lots of people over it, destroyed a lot of things, and helped to bring about the mafia, to strengthen them. McElway continues. It was revived again in the 1980s war on drugs and continues to this day. The civil asset forfeiture. Yeah, that's what they would do. They say, oh yeah, if we find you growing a plant in your house, we can confiscate your whole house. Man, let the punishment fit the crime, huh? And why would that even be a crime? So they can take your house. They make laws that they might create mischief and come after the soul of the righteous and shed innocent blood. In civil asset forfeiture, a police officer can confiscate a citizen's cash or other property, charge the money and not the citizen with criminal activity, and keep the money if the citizen is unable to prove that he or she legitimately owns the cash. You know, what's that saying? Possession is 90% of ownership or something like that. But heck, once the cops take it, now they say, now we own it. And you have to fight us through our buddies in court and everything, and our federal friends and everything, and try to get it back. So good luck to you. All right, this process circumvents constitutional rights. You're not innocent until proven guilty. And they don't have to prove you guilty at all. They just have to say, oh, I think you're guilty, so we're going to take your money, or your car, or your jewelry, or whatever else we want to take. It says Texas police. Let's get into a few more examples here. Oh, there's so many on the internet. And that's why I encourage people before to look it up and did that little video. But this covers it even more. Texas police seized over $200,000 from the family of Lisa Olivia Leonard, although neither she nor her relatives were ever charged with a crime connected to the cash. The U.S. Supreme Court refused to consider the case, Leonard versus Texas, but Justice Clarence Thomas wrote of it. This system, where police can seize property with limited judicial oversight and retain it for their own use has led to egregious and well-chronicled abuses, because a law enforcement entity responsible for seizing the property often keeps it, and these entities have strong incentives to pursue forfeiture. Yeah, because it's legal robbery for them. A national study, look at this. A national study reported by Fox News columnist Barnini Chakraborty found 60% of the 1,400 municipal and county agencies surveyed across the country relied on forfeiture deposits as a necessary part of their budget. So it's a necessary part of their budget. Not like, wasn't it necessary for the person's budget that it was stolen from? I would say, yeah. But do these thieves care about that? No, obviously. They're coming to take it. All right. Yeah, they've got me a couple times. $900 one time, $2,000 one time. And I won't even get into more. Okay, let's go here some more. Let's see what we got here. The worst asset forfeiture law reigned briefly in the city of Helper, Utah, where individual lawmen could receive 25% of whatever money or assets they seized. Man, it's like the mafia, right? Or some other things I won't get into right now. Hey, look, you outrob people. We're going to back you up, and we're going to let you keep 25% of everything that you steal from. Because all that an officer needed to confiscate someone's $1 million house or luxury car might be to find a fragment of a marijuana cigarette on the property. Whoa, boy. And if you don't think the police plant things, whoa, boy. I had a friend of mine find out the hard way. I told him about some of the things that they did. And he told me years later, after they did it to him, he said, you know what, when you told me about it, I really didn't believe it. He said, now I know, you're right. Yeah, and I went to court to help that guy out. Let's see. When a highway robber wears a badge, some victims are too poor to hire a lawyer and fight back, and they count on that. And they know that you're from another state too. They count on that. Other citizens despair of regaining their cash when they cannot prove the seized money came from their private savings, and the legal case would pit their word against some law enforcement officers. Consider some other recent incidences. A law enforcement pulled over an 81-year-old Nevada resident, James Huff, over a minor traffic violation. The officer asked Mr. Huff if he had any legal substances or large amounts of currency. Now, that shouldn't be illegal. According to the Heritage Foundation, the officer seized $8,400 in cash, immediately presented Mr. Huff with a disclaimer of ownership form, attempting to convince the octogenarian to sign away all legal interest in his money right there on the side of the road. See, now they even got this paperwork so they can intimidate you, or if you don't understand, like this 81-year-old man may not have. They say, well, here, just sign this, and I'm going to let you go. And I'm not going to lock you up or anything. But what you're signing is a right to give them all the money. Like I said, it's highway robbery. Since Huff refused, intending to challenge the seizures, writes Jason Sneed of Foundation's Daily Signal, 6 months later, the Apache County Attorney's Office published a generic notice in a local paper that the office intended to forfeit $8,400 in currency. The notice gave no specifics, so Huff and his lawyers did not know that the notice was for his money. As a consequence, he missed the deadline to file a claim, and a judge ruled that he had lost the opportunity to challenge the seizure. The money was ordered forfeited by default. See? Even the judge was with them. Like I said, they gather themselves together and come after the soul of the righteous. Phil Parhamovich was pulled over in Laramie County, Wyoming for improper lane use and not wearing a seatbelt. The State Highway Patrol officer then asked if he was carrying a large amount of cash, quote, a weapon or specific illegal drugs, according to the news webzine Fox. The officer seized and kept $91,800 that Parhamovich had saved to buy a music studio. Yeah, you see a lot of these people where they confiscate the cash from. A lot of times people will see a car on eBay or something like that, so they pull out large amounts of savings in cash. If you're going to another state and you're going to buy somebody's car, they're not going to take a check from you and give you the keys and let you drive away, probably, but they will take cash and let you drive away. All right, so let me get to this quote here. This is what the officer said. We're going to let you go as long as you sign this waiver. The waiver said that the signer would, quote, desire to give this property or currency, along with any and all interest and ownership that I may have in it, to the State of Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigations, to be used for narcotics law enforcement purposes. If the property or currency cannot be used for narcotic law enforcement purposes, I desire that the property or currency be disposed of as the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation sees fit in accordance with the law. And as I point out in my other video dealing on this, so often, this money is used to take judges, police chiefs, outstanding officers, those who write a bunch of these and who confiscate a lot of money. It's used to give them bonuses or to take them on vacations. All right. So these waivers, like he says here, they make it clear that officers are now hunting for cash they can seize and are quick to ask people they have stopped to sign over the rights to their money without consulting a lawyer. All right, here's another one. All right, Robert Miller of Illinois was pulled over for speeding in Wyoming, but faced no criminal charges. Police, however, here's why he didn't face any criminal charges. Police, however, seized $470,000 in cash, claiming it was somehow associated with drug trafficking. The state refused to return his money. Some small towns used to use speed traps to pick the pockets of motorists passing through. Oh, isn't that the truth? Boy, some of them... Thanks to asset forfeiture, some towns and states are now cash traps that squeeze thousands of dollars from people never charged with or convicted of any serious crime. California Tom Nguyen was pulled over for going 78 miles an hour in a 75-mile-an-hour zone by the deputy, who, according to his dash cam video and audio, reportedly asked Nguyen, "How much money you got?" So he pulled him over, said, "How much money you got? Because I'm going to rob you. I got a badge, and I got a gun, and I got the law on my side. What you got? What's in your pocket?" Nothing illegal was found in the vehicle, but the deputy took $50,000 in cash and $10,000 in cashier's checks. When Nguyen, who'd won the money at a Nevada casino, questioned why his car was being searched, the deputy replied, "Because I'm talking to you." Well, no, I don't have to explain that to you. I'm not going to explain that to you, but I'm going to put my drug on that, pointing to the money. And if my dog alerts, I'm seizing the money. You can try to get it back, but you're not. You'll burn it up in attorney's fees before we give it back to you. Highway robbery. And they gathered themselves together, because the judge and the courts are going to be with that cop, because they want to take this man's $50,000 in cash and his $10,000 cashier's check. Now, let's go on with this. A drug sniffing dog can also be trained to alert to subtle officers' cues. The law has authorized the asset forfeiture of objects carrying detectable traces of cocaine or other illicit drugs. however small, which reportedly is the case with as much as 90% of U.S. currency in circulation. By this standard, up to 90% of your cash in your wallet has been linked to drug use, can be linked to drug use, and seized right now. 90%? I don't know. I don't think that many people have rolled up bills to snort cocaine. Maybe the $100 bills might be a percentage of it, but I don't think it would be 90. But definitely, if they tested, oh, there's some cocaine here. Oh, we can take all your money, man. We know you got this one from the bank, but that's okay. We're going to take all your money anyway. All right. Now, the deputy then offered Nugent, however you pronounce it, a deal. If he surrendered the cash, the deputy would let him keep the cashier's checks and his car. If not, the deputy would seize it all, have the car towed away, and Nugent could walk, be left alone on foot in a desolate stretch of desert. This is highway robbery. This is extortion. On July 17, 2017, then Attorney General Jeff Sessions issued an order greatly expanding federal, state, local cooperation in forfeiting assets. He called the order Federal Adoptions, a program that allows state and local officers to seize cash or other property, then collect up to 80% of the proceeds by turning it over to the federal government to forfeit under federal law. You see, the feds are subbing out these crimes to their lessers there, to state and local governments, hiring them to be criminals, just like the Queen of England used to do to hire pirates, known criminals that normally they would kill, but it's okay if they hire them to use them to go out and get other people. So they use criminals, just as our government does today, to go out and gain wealth. Because with care, we got to be careful. And professionalism, we plan to develop policies to increase forfeitures, said Sessions. And like I said, I saw the president in a meeting with several of his cabinet members, and they mentioned that there was like a senator or congressman from, I believe it's Texas. Kudos to that man. He was totally against this because he knows how illegal it is. And the president said, "Who is that man? Oh, don't mention it here. But we can ruin that man's career." These people. And that was the president that said that. Do you trust President Trump? See some of my videos about Trump. More than half the country has enacted civil forfeiture reform since 2014, writes Sibilia, with 8 states restricting or banning adopted forfeiture. So only 8 states restricting or banning. Now, I don't know which ones are banning or restricting, but man, all the states pretty much are getting into it, and they're trying to get all of them, because these politicians, they're out there about the money. They're not out there about you. The fact that Attorney General Sessions, let me see, no, says, but in other states, improperly seized assets can be made legal if transferred to the feds for forfeiture under federal law. By this means, wrote one USA Today columnist, in adoptive forfeiture cases, agencies can bypass state protections for innocent property owners. They make laws that they might create mischief. The fact that Attorney General Sessions is going all in on this is really offensive, said Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul. But when the 2018 omnibus spending measure arrived, it contained no language reforming civil asset forfeiture, a measure widely popular with the public, but not necessarily popular with law enforcement. See, they wanted to be able to take more. Or perhaps lawmakers privately agreed with Sessions that such punishing wealth redistribution from the bad guys to the good guys might sometimes be abused, and that it should continue. Sometimes be abused? How about probably not 100%? 100% of the time being abused. Really close to that. The Fed in a little more than 100 years has become central planner in the U.S. economy. He talks about the type of economic systems that they like to use. But it says members of Congress prefer modern monetary theory, which looks Keynesian at first glance, but which advocates perpetual government stimulus spending and never-ending higher taxation. Now, think about this. That stimulus spending, who did that go to? Did it go to the people? It went to their friends, the other corporations, and to their friends who owned these other corporations, many of whom just blew that money. And it did no help for the economy other than the economy of those few people. And now we got to pay for it for a long time. All right, let's see. I want to get through this. Said the Fed drove the interest rate at which the government and the giant corporations can borrow to almost zero for President Obama's 8 years. Even the Fed economists know that in the long run, this will destroy the economy for those needing interest income, such as elderly bank savers and lenders. The government, however, is totally addicted to borrowing at 0% interest and lacks the revenue to cover their huge debts if interest rates rise. That's funny. It's kind of like the joke of the guy. It goes to the loan shark. This could be like our government going to the loan sharks. Guy goes to the loan shark. He said, well, I got bad news, but I got good news too. And the loan shark says, okay, so what's the bad news? Well, the bad news is I really don't have the money to pay you. Loan shark says, well, then what's the good news is? Oh, the good news is I'm still willing to do business with you. That's our government. We don't have the money to pay the debt, but we want to keep borrowing more and more. We're going to live it up while we can. And then everything can crash down later. Let me see. Let's go down here. In the absence of paper money, writes Money and Banking, central banks can reduce the nominal interest rate as far as they want. Very negative interest rates could help battle deep economic slumps like the Great Recession that began in 2017. The biggest balls, the government and giant corporations could have money at essentially no cost, paid for by interest that used to be paid to thrifty savers. But if people have the option to withdraw their bank savings in cash, millions would do so rather than carrying no interest while paying a hefty fee to the bank. Because see, what they do in a negative interest rate situation is the bank's going to claim, well, shoot, we're losing money now, so we have to charge you money for keeping your money in our bank accounts. It's just another money grab. It's just another way for them to steal your money. And keep in mind, they did that over there, what was that, in Greece or Cyprus? They actually were taking money out of people's accounts. I don't think that can't happen here. Oh, there's so many things already happened in history. Like when the U.S. government did take away everybody's gold, they made another law that what was once legal would now be illegal. If you had gold, you had to give it to the government at a low price, and then they jacked the price up because they wanted back our money with it. They said, but the money's no longer backed by gold. And where is all that gold? What have they done with it? Who's got it? All right. Let's go here. But here's what they said. The biggest borrowers, the government and giant corporations, and our government is a giant corporation, could have money at essentially no cost paid for by the interest that used to be paid to thrifty savers. But if people have let's go past that, I got that. The cashless society makes us prisoners. Cash limits our bank's ability to lower interest rates because we are free to take our savings in cash and leave. Cash could crash the whole system. This says progressive globalists on why it ultimately must be killed. See, they want to get rid of cash. What did this progressive globalist say? Cash could crash their whole system because their plan, their system, is to bring out that mark of the beast and to control everybody by limiting to what they can buy and sell and to who can buy and sell. It says in recent years, well, we'll just touch on this. A secondary crime was created called structuring. That's why this guy who was putting less than $10,000 into the bank at a time had his money confiscated. They're calling it structuring because quite a few years back, the government went to all the banks, and I remember at the time, the bankers that I knew, bank presidents and stuff, they were against this. But the government said from now on, if anybody makes a deposit or withdrawal of $10,000 or more, you got to notify us. You know what? I said, man, there's none yet. And at first, that's what the banks were saying too, because they knew that that was probably going to hurt them. All right, let's just keep going here. So that was another crime that they created. Remember, they make laws to create mischief. Now, this income from drugs, prostitution, private gambling, home repairs, and thousands of other things paid in cash could, Beach and Kabula estimate, have harvested $1 trillion in tax revenue for the government. It's funny that the government now, they control drugs and gambling. I mean, hey, they do the lotteries. You know, if you're going to have a dog track or horse race track, it's all got to be backed by the government. They can determine who can have them and who can't. You know, you got the, and the drugs. The government's the biggest drug importer and seller. Yeah. Because they want to control everything, so they control the money too. I mean, it was illegal to be able to get marijuana. Now you can get it as long as you give the government some money, and that makes it legal for you. Huh. Wow. What a bunch of crooks. All right. Now, in a cashless society, they say, crime would not pay as well as it does today. That's not true. It's true for the private sector, but not for the government, because corporations run things. So see, in a cashless society, they say, crime would not pay as well as it does today. Yes, it would for the government. Yep. It's like the guy said to his dad. He said, Dad, he's going through college. He said, Dad, I'm thinking about, after considering all options, I'm thinking about getting into a life of crime. And his dad said, oh, really? Government or private sector? Like I say, the cashless society will benefit the government, but not us, businesses and people. This cash will eventually be outlawed and restricted. Now, true, because the Bible says it. And you know that the Bible's right. Because with capital controls already coming down hard in Sweden, Denmark, France, Greece, and many other places, eventually those caught carrying more than a pittance of cash might be subject to its forfeiture or even to imprisonment for committing a cash crime. They're already doing it in this country, taking people's money. Oh, I don't want to get into all of this. We're going to try to, all right. Talk about taxes. The tax is an inflation deliberately created by the Federal Reserve by printing money in excess of our nation's productivity. And this debases the money that you earn and save. But they can keep getting themselves as much money as they want. Today, the Federal Reserve punishes savers with financial repression, which is a terrible thing. It's good for people to save to a point. The economist's term for deliberate holding the rate of interest banks pay depositors below the rate of inflation. That's financial repression. When you're deliberately holding the rate of interest below the real rate of inflation. This guarantees that savers in America today lose part of the value of their savings every day that they keep cash in the bank. This benefits banks and government, but not savers. Rates are going up, says the Fed, but real inflation may already be 10%. Remember, they profit from that inflation. We don't. It just causes things to become more expensive for us. All right? Welcome to the new cashless feudalism that Nobel laureate Friedrich Hayek warned was at the end of our road to serfdom. Hayek wanted us, let's not get into it. He wanted us to use whatever currency, cash, or money we wish. And he says several different things about cash, a bunch of quotes. And let me just do a couple of them here. And the cashless banking system has become key to creating all-pervasive, all-controlling global government surveillance and power over each of us. This is why governments are so eager to impose a cashless society before their citizens understand the vast increase in government power and loss of individual freedom that comes when cash goes away. And people are going to find that when that mark of the beast comes. And they're going to take it thinking, yeah, somebody already, this is so convenient. I don't need to carry cash anymore. I just put my hand up there and it starts my car. It opens a door. I can buy things. Oh. They don't realize what they're giving up. Experts estimate that the average American inadvertently commits 3 felonies a day. The odds are that if the government wished, you could be convicted of a crime. Like I said, they make laws that they might be able to convict you. And Stalin, he said, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. And this government can and does do that the same too. They will go out there, they will try to discredit you, do newspapers or whatever. They will make up things. They will do whatever they feel they have to discredit you, to make you look bad or make you into a criminal if you don't have that high social score, as in China. All right, federal regulations requires banks. Now, this is interesting. Federal regulations, pretty much just about all regulatory agencies in the United States are a part of the New World Government. And they're here to control. Federal regulations require banks to file suspicious activity reports, or SARs, on their customers, writes Kevin Dowd, a professor of finance and economics at Durham University in the United Kingdom, and adjunct scholar at the Cato Institute. Banks have minimum SAR quotas that they need to submit to government. If they don't file enough, they can be fined, and their executives and directors can be jailed for non-compliance. Wow. So now, if the banks don't file enough SARs, suspicious activity reports, what does it say? They can be fined, and their executives and directors can be jailed for non-compliance. Once again, they make laws that they might create mischief. And then they gather themselves together and shed the blood of the righteous. In late 2017, Bank of America and Wells Fargo filed J.P. Morgan Chase embedding deposits into other people's accounts. As one customer was shocked to learn when he was unable to deposit $50 in cash into his child's account. For 2 years prior to this new rule, the Bank of America required a government-issued ID from those making such deposits. Let me go on with this. The banks, according to San Francisco Business Times reporter Mark Calvi, are responding to security concerns such as money laundering. Fear of regulatory pressure and penalties, however, may have prompted these major banks to impose an even higher stranglehold on customers' use of cash. That's it. God says that he, the beast, causes all men to receive this mark. That'll have to wait. I'm almost done anyway, I think. Now, let's see. If you think it's getting harder to put cash into the bank, as we explored in our book, these people, this is another a title of another one of their books, which I think I might like to get. They have a couple I'm interested in. It says, don't bank on it. The world, the unsafe world of 21st century banking. That's the name of one of their books. Try taking out cash that you believe is yours, but that the government now regards as an asset of the banks. And that's what they've done in other places too. Odds are that your bank will resist and delay your request to make any sizable cash withdrawal from your account. This is partly because banks nowadays often have little cash on hand, and partly because of the government paperwork your withdrawal requires the bank to complete. Even innocent cash transactions at a bank can now land citizens in a world of hurt. I remember a friend of mine went through a divorce, and he and his wife had to split their assets and sell the house and all this. And he had a Bank of America check for $25,000. And I went with him because he was going to cash it, do something else with it. And the bank says, we can't cash it. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, we don't have enough cash on it. They couldn't cash this man's $25,000 check. So we were told to go to another branch. And even when we went there, I think what ended up happening, we had to wait a couple hours to come back and get the cash. And that's probably why, because they had to do all that paperwork. Yeah, but at least that's another SAR for them to do to meet their quota. Like the ticket quotas that policemen have. Anything to come after you and for them to make money. Terry Deco awoke one January morning to discover that the IRS had seized the entire $35,000 bank account of his small Michigan grocery store. Deco's crime, he learned, was that he could only get insurance that would cover $10,000 or less of cash losses. So he had employees make frequent deposits of less than $10,000 at the local bank across the street to be safe from robbers. As the law requires, that bank flagged his deposits for the IRS with a suspicious activity report on his business. Deco and his children had run their market for 35 years and faithfully reported and paid taxes on their income. Audits show no tax law violations. Nevertheless, the IRS saw these multiple deposits of just under $10,000 as structuring. It seized his operating capital and filed a typical asset forfeiture case, not against him, but against the cash accused of involvement in law breaking. United States of America versus $35,651.11 was the official legal name case. See, this way they get around the Constitution too. See, we have a right, like I said earlier, to be secure in our assets, in our cash, our papers, and everything else. So they don't come after you. They charge the cash with a crime. It's funny. I've never seen cash commit a crime. Have you? But see, they use this to get around the Constitution and to steal, to rob you of your money. It's not stealing. This is robbery. To steal is when you do it under guise, sneakily. Robbery is when you just write out, hey, I'm taking your money, man. All right. Sweden had been enthusiastic about becoming the world's first entirely cashless society. By 2018, however, the Swedes became frightened at the power this gives government. Not only their own, but Russia's, should it launch an invasion by hacking, scrambling, or shutting off Sweden's computer network as it did Ukraine's, leaving Swedes helpless without access to either cash or credit. Like I said, you should have whatever you can, have you some cash available for emergencies, because it may come a time where you will not be able to get your money out of the bank. Wow. Not that it may. Yeah, it's going to happen to a lot of people. All right. In India, where 1.3 billion people made 96% of their transactions in cash, the government surprise announcement on November 8, 2016 hit like a thunderbolt. It meant those now here's another way they get over. It meant those with no proof of where their cash came from were unable to exchange it for the new currency. In effect, their untaxed, undeclared cash could within hours become unconvertible and hence forfeited. Yep. They got cash that they backed, or it's really not backed by anything. But now you can't do nothing with it because it is worthless anyway. All right. The European Central Bank is eliminating the 500-euro bill. Australia is aiming to dump its $100 bill. Leftist Venezuela purged its largest denomination 100 Bolivar bill. Inflation shriveled to a value of less than the cost of printing it. The multinational company Apple wants to kill cash, perhaps because its cell phones would then, for millions of customers, take the place of cash in making purchases. American economist Larry Summers has joined other globalist progressives barking to abandon the $100 bill. Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz wants to bury all U.S. currency, from the 100 to the $1 bill. Economist Rogoff wrote a book titled The Curse of Cash. Their aim is to make cash too risky and troublesome to carry for large purchases and to make government financial control absolute. United States currency once had $500,000, $5,000, and $10,000 bills, all of which were terminated in 1969. President Richard Nixon, who severed the dollar's last convertibility to gold in 1971, purged the $5,000 bill explicitly because criminals found its use convenient. So see, like I said, they took everybody's gold many years ago, and in 1971 said, yeah, now your cash, all that gold we took from you and stuff, so we could back the cash and make it have value, and you could trade your cash for gold. You can't do that anymore. Now, basically your cash is only, it's worth whatever we tell you it is. All right, take our word, it's still good. You're okay. We got the gold. Yeah, you got your cash. Okay, a little touch on Bitcoin here. Now, I don't know much about it. Don't really care to. I did run into a guy, I guess just over a week ago, who allegedly just made a large sum of money from Bitcoin. He'd been into it for a bit, and he was one of the ones that got lucky, but he was skeptical about getting back into anything like that. He's one of the ones that got lucky because, well, let's just read a little bit of stuff here. It says, Bitcoin is the greatest scam in history, wrote Bill Harris, founding CEO of PayPal in April 2018. It's a colossal, that's what I believe too, pump and dump scheme, the likes of which the world has never seen. He knows that Bitcoins are accepted almost nowhere, and some cryptocurrencies nowhere at all. The value can swing by 10% or more in a single day, making them useless as a means of payment and undesirable as a store of value. Bitcoin, like the dollar, has no intrinsic value, wrote Harris. It only has a value if people think other people will buy it for a higher price. The greater fool theory. Yeah. Says Bitcoin's mysterious origin may be the U.S. government itself. Oh, that's what I've always assumed. Yeah. But let's just get down to one other little thing. As Stevie Wonder's song Superstition warns, when you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Yep, I don't understand it, and I'm not gonna. When you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. I wouldn't put my money into it. In 2018, liberal Democrat, oh, this is good too, and New York State Comptroller Thomas J. DiNapoli, who controls where the state invests its $209.1 billion pension fund, sent out a letter It went to institutions that control our credit cards and borrowing. Visa, MasterCard, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, American Express, Discover Financial Services, and others. The Annapolis suggested that these companies look into implementing ways to block all credit card purchases of firearms, ammunition, and gun accessories. The implied threat was clear. Stop extending credit to gun and ammunition buyers, or risk having New York State investment money taken away from your bank or credit company because the left wants to ban guns. See, they use that cash to control, and they're violating the Constitution. The federal government has already tried such intimidation. As we explain in our book, don't bank on it. The unsafe world of 21st century banking. President Barack Obama implemented Operation Choke Point, which threatened big regulatory problems for financial institutions that did not withhold banking and credit services from firearms and ammunition sellers, among others. Such were to be cut off even if they had never been found guilty of any crime or wrongdoing. Govern, control. This was a naked weaponization of regulatory power to injure or kill ideological targets. I'll say it now, and I've said it before. When I see pretty much all these regulatory agencies, they're bad. They're all a part of the New World Order system. They've been getting these things into governments for a long time, and that's how they get control, to regulate things. And before long, they're going to regulate who can buy or sell. Now, all right, let's see. Yeah, he said that Operation Choke Point using reputational risk as a tool for bank coercion. Now so does Napoli with cashlessness, when customers have no other way to buy or sell. Nuclear warfare can destroy business and products. In 2017, kudos to the president for this. President Donald Trump halted Operation Choke Point, but as The Hill observed, a program terminated unilaterally can be resumed unilaterally. So they're basically saying that if the Democrats get back in power, they can bring it right back. All right, in a cashless society, government can not only monitor and tax everything you buy, but also can ban specific purchases, range from foods it deems unhealthful to guns it deems dangerous. It can destroy the ability of targeted companies and even whole industries to sell to customers. Yep, just like they do with embargoes. It's hurt industries and countries through the embargoes that they have put out. Once upon a time, when America was a nation of free enterprise, the money was honest and flowed voluntarily to those businesses that offered the best products and services for the price. And this made it an innovative, independent, and prosperous nation. Elections were contests between two centrists, pro-capitalist political parties that cooperated to make America succeed. So that's how it used to be. Then, a bit more than 100 years ago, our politics began to be polarized by progressives. Sure, a Federal Reserve was created. Where was I? To be polarized by progressives, our politics began to be polarized by the progressives, collectivists, or essentially socialists, and bent on re-engineering, or more like communists really, or are bent on re-engineering our society and human nature itself. When in office, they took money coercively via high taxes and oppressive regulations. Their aim was to redistribute wealth, not based on merit, but by giving it to their cronies and voters. This has increasingly made America like the unfair lands our ancestors left in search of freedom and opportunity in America. Isn't that true? We didn't have a revolutionary war before. And the things that are coming now, They're going to be a lot worse than that Revolutionary War was. All right. Yeah, the Federal Reserve. Oh, yeah. Let me see. These progressives have turned America into a land with a pro-enterprise party. Yep, pro-enterprise party. Pro-corporation party. And an anti-capitalist socialist party. Yeah, they make it harder and harder for the individual to be able to get ahead through their regulatory agencies and through other things and laws that they create and through other things, which I'm not going to get into right here. It says, this has turned every election into a game of Russian relay, making investors reluctant to build new companies or hire people because if the socialists win, they could confiscate their investor property. The best known of these self-described socialists, she's been in the news a lot lately, who have hijacked the Democratic Party, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who says she favors modern monetary theory. Few had heard of it, but we clearly saw there progressivism was headed and devoted an entire chapter of our book, The Great Debasement, to MMT, which is modern monetary theory. And here's just a little thing about that. Modern monetary theory assumes that all currency is always the property of the government, which may permit you to use it with the understanding that the government can always reclaim its money via taxation, inflation, or outright seizure. The government, which can never go bankrupt, can print as much money or create as much credit out of thin air as it needs or wants, thereby creating prosperity and solving all financial problems. New Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez thus believes that government can pay for never-ending government programs to provide health care, college education, and other benefits for all, because government can print all the money needed to pay for hundreds of trillions of dollars in such social programs. Deficits, according to MMT, are not a curse but a blessing. Sure they are for the credit companies. For them, it's a blessing. Our nation has not one coin of the realm but two. One is the coin of money, and Ocasio-Cortez calls those who earn much of it wealthy. But to the productive, money is capital, green energy that can be invested to create things. This socialist congresswoman nevertheless wants to use force to confiscate and redistribute what these producers have earned. This is easily done since the government enacted progressive taxation and regulation which can be targeted on individuals. Yep, they can go after the wealthy and take their money with these plans that these people are working on. In Miss Ocasio-Cortez's socialism, all are equal, but as George Orwell said, some are more equal than others. Note that she advocates redistributing other people's wealth. Why don't she just redistribute her own wealth? Leave our wealth alone. But she never proposes redistributing government power back to the people that the government was supposed to serve. Instead, she wants all power and wealth transferred to the government, led by people like her. We know where this path leads, to an impoverished, dictatorial society with an all-powerful ruling class whose citizens' serfs are moneyless and in ever-deepening debt. All right, I'm going to stop it at that. This thing's really gone long. I had no idea it was going to go this long. But The Secret War. And these people have some other books that, like I said, I'm probably going to have to get into. But you got to see what your government is doing. You know, I have a lot of videos on government that you ought to see if you haven't seen them yet. And I'm sure there'll be more before it's over with. Because that's who's behind the problems of this world. You know, Satan gave his power. He's given power to these individuals. And like I said, these are not godly people up there at the top who are there looking out for you, or as I read in the beginning of this, who take care of the poor, and then your nation will be blessed. But no, these people are people who turn away from the laws of God and from righteousness, from doing what is right because of the love of money. So people, I just thought I'd throw this video out there. I'm going to say like I say in just about all my videos. Read your Bible. It's the most important thing. Pray. Pray about what to do about this. And I'll give you things to do in upcoming videos. But also repent from your sins. And this government needs to turn from all of these sins it is doing. From all of this highway robbery. From confiscating people's cash. Yep, some they steal and some they rob. That will not have God bless the country. Quite the opposite. So folks, that's it for this one. It was awfully long. I hope you got some good things about it. You know, if you did, share it. Subscribe to my channel. Definitely see some other videos. As you see, you know, the times are coming. God has told us what's going to happen. And I'm just here trying to keep you informed and showing you how that those things that he said are already happening. So that you'll be prepared and you won't be robbed as a thief in the night when that thief does come. All right, that's it, folks. Hope to catch you on the next video.